right, so we're shit posting again. Hi, Deputy.
Howdy.
So I came up with a terrible idea, and that is let's start this thing off at the Battle of Manila Bay. And let's see if Spain can push back America.
I assume we're going to play the Spaniards then.
Oh, we have to. I mean,
yes.
Well, okay, the fleet was sitting there, and we sail in, and we're like, da, 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 da.
Yeah, so
And, you know,
we're going to play the Spaniards clubbing the baby seal of nascent American nationalism in 1898.
We are going to cancel the Great White Fleet.
Oops.
Yeah, that's the.
Sorry about you.
Yeah, so let's do. There's no battle cruisers yet, but it's gonna be protected cruisers and battleships. I think that's all you're gonna see at this point. It'll be the Battle of Manila Bay, which, if you want to see embarrassing, look at these shots fired to shots hit. Like when you have ships that are cold and at anchor and they can raise steam and then start moving by the time the battle starts, it's really bad. Your shooting is awful.
Ran out of ammunition in several turrets without getting hits.
Yeah. So we need to build the best battleship we can. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that sweaty bastard. What a boat. That looks awful.
That is a ship.
It's, you know, you're intrigued by it, but it's like when you go use someone's shower and you look over and there's their bar of soap and it's got some curious shapes and you wonder, like, did they just squeeze it different? Like, did they use it like deodorant? Did they just like hold the bar of and just rub it on themselves? Like, why is it shaped like that?
So like French or Russian battleships would be that. This is looking at the soap scum and wondering why it's brown.
Oh. That's fair. Look, I think we're going to have some fun. And I think, first of all, we need a funnel. And then we need another one. And maybe more later.
If you know, the British Navy at the time was 3 cheese hamburger helper. This is great value hamburger meal made with deer.
I was going to say, like, this is a classic case of mom's tired. This is not a good ship. So the maximum range is 12,000 clicks, which makes sense because this is the opposite side of the world. But I don't know what kind of rich man they think I am to afford 16 plus knots of coal. That's a lot of coal, sir. That is a tremendous
Very
amount
much
of coal.
so.
What? By the way, what
is it picking up me drinking?
It is picking up you drinking. So you're gonna have to tell the audience about the delicate beverage you have chosen for this.
God damn it! No. All right. So I haven't had caffeine in like 2 years, right? I'm a night shift cop that doesn't drink caffeine. It horrifies my shift workers. But I'm having a hot chocolate with some caramel and a little bit of marshmallow.
Some caramel? Some caramel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, there's a couple of pieces of my accent that I have not managed to kill. People make fun of me for it. In the Legion, no less.
They do.
This bunch of hick motherfuckers.
Hick mother? You're calling us a hick? Come on. Come on.
I forget what the other word was. There was one.
You're highfalutin city folk with the wide brims and the breeches full of money. Just
no. There was one specific way that I said a word that they're like, "Oh yeah, you're from fucking Missouri."
Well, I said the mistake of someone said, "Oh, I'll be there once I eat," and I said the Texan thing, "Jeet yet?" You know, Jeet yet. So, jeet yet? And they're like, "What?" Like they did not understand the words that came out of my mouth, and I was like, yes, I'm from a different part of this country.
It took me probably 6-7 years to stop calling bags a poke, because that's what they were called.
No, like got a pig and a poke, and people are like, "What?
What in the fuck did you just say?" Oh
yeah. Ugh. So, okay, here's my idea. The main guns are 9 inches, and it really doesn't matter because this is black powder. Well, actually, I've moved to ballistite, which is black powder plus, let's be honest. My charge, the shell charge, I'm going to go to gun cotton, because as long as we're going to use shit from 1812, let's go all in, right?
Hell yeah. I really have a hard time believing that the Spanish Navy at the time had anything better.
It didn't. And so we're going to go with 17-inch torps. Everything else, though, is going to be part of that torpedo boats are scary craze, so it's all 2-inch guns. Everything else is just festooned with 2-inch guns. That's what I wanted. All right, we need more smokes. Naturally, we're going to need additional... oh, God, the ship is overweight. It's too much smoke. God damn it. Why do they hate? Why do they hate me as a designer? I am a man with certain principles.
And those are being soundly rejected by the laws of physics, and I don't care for it, frankly.
I think it's being really mean, for one, and two, I made the superstructure an inch and a half. Oh.
Yeah.
There we go. All
there
right.
we go.
So, yeah.
We got 40 pounds to spare for the crew.
Fuck them. So, this it's buen consejo. What? I need a good... El guapo.
That's a good one.
I have a plethora of ships. All right, let's get into armored cruisers. That looks like it's got a swimming pool in the middle.
That's like the Glomar Explorer's fucking moon pool.
Well, what the thing is when you see the sort of inset, it reminds me of you're still looking at main guns sitting in a central casemate idea from this time period, and so I
really wish this game gave us a little bit more freedom so we could do crazy shit like build super monitors.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this. This is a lot sexier. And that's the one I want. I don't want the blimpy one. I want the turbo one. That's what I want. All right, there we go. And these can't be any faster than the battleships. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
No, they need to be the same. We need good...
Again, we're blowing coal out of the fucking stack, so...
Yeah, so we need a name as well for this ship. It needs to be... Yes.
Monosariba. Don Quixote's a good one.
I think so. So, yeah, the old Frank Hamer saying, yeah, that's a good one. By the way, if you've not seen The Highwayman, that's what we're referencing. And if you need to see The Highwayman, go see The Highwayman. That's the actual factual breakdown of how they got Bonnie and Clyde.
It does pretty well.
It doesn't capture everything. Some things are slightly overplayed, but you kind of see what kind of quote-unquote heroes these people are and what kind of people they are and like how crazy that era was.
The Wild West is full of men who've been put on pedestals who are not very good men.
No, and that's one of those things where I think that...
You look at the Wyatts.
Oh, yeah.
The Earps.
The Earps, yeah. Not the Wyatts. That sounds like a fucking Hallmark movie. The Wyatts.
Yeah, the Wyatts.
Starts playing like the Dallas theme and the lady's coming down the stairs for no reason. Why is it the Dallas theme?
The Earps were not particularly good people. You find a lot of people jumped between being lawmen and being distinctly outside of the law, depending on where they were in the current moment and where they could get a job.
No, and that's the one thing to remark is that, like, I think that a lot of people have very inaccurate views of the world around them. And these very inaccurate views come from kind of a fantasy. See, I made an Atlanta I made in Atlanta in 1898.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm a hero. This is not going to work. It's made out of paper.
Well, we've got 2,000 tons to throw into armor.
Yeah, well, half that's going on that barbette because I would like those to not explode. Also, the deck would like to have an inch, not like a veneer of armor plate.
When you can poke a pencil through it, it's too thin.
It's Apollo thin. But no, you're absolutely right. When it comes down to the history of law enforcement, especially, people look at that and they go, oh, those guys were good men in a hard time. And it's like, no, those guys were tough men in a hard time. There's a difference.
Yeah.
It's
very much so.
It's one of those things where...
But it does not stop when the year 1900, chimes in. We have a very sordid history in law enforcement that we have to overcome.
I agree. But
it
I'm not a cop.
From that, and it continues. Yeah.
No, and it's one of those things where I find it very, very kind of...
Back up. Let me see down your line again.
Oh, no. Okay.
What's that third one in line called?
Hermione?
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
So El Guapo, Hermione, Hero, and Las Vinas. And then we've got San Felipe, Don Quixote, and I can't do all of these. I just need Gypsy to inlay these in perfect Spanish because he rolls his R's so beautifully. So beautifully. And it's just, I'm like, oh, it's so good because he'll be like, yes, vibrato. And I'm like, oh, that's so good.
See, I can't do the rolling R.
No,
I took German. I did not take Spanish. I did not take Russian. So my pronunciation I can muddle my way through Dutch and mostly understand it because it's Low German based. It's like half Old English, half High German.
God, that was like...
And you sound it out, and it just sounds like a toddler trying to talk to you in English. So.
Dankjewel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, it's one of those things I agree with. And I find that, yeah, there is a certain wildness in law enforcement that has just kind of been always the American thing because it's the Wild West. And people think that, again, that ends with moving cameras and motion pictures, ending that Wild West approach to shit. And then you go open a newspaper and you're like,
well, ooh. And the interesting thing is that it's not just an American phenomenon. We have a very rugged individualistic take on it, but the most violent police encounter I've ever seen was in Britain. I was there on a layover. Yeah, I was there on a layover. Some guy was being an asshole outside the pub, and suddenly there were 6 cops with long sticks. And they took care of that problem and then drug him out of the street before it became a show.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's not me trying to damn anything. Like, I'm not one of these guys who acts like I understand everything that goes into law enforcement. I was one of those guys that was a fucking dispatcher. I mean, I hear the middle of the call. I'm there in your head like a very, very detached, disassociated Obi-Wan with Google skills. That's it. So, the answers I'm going to give you are going to be as accurate as I can make them, but very human. And so it's a very different perspective. But I find it really limiting when people will just go, oh, this is all this, and here's the solution. And I'm like, if it was really that easy,
Nothing happens in a vacuum. That's true in law enforcement as it is in the rest of life.
And I agree with you. It's one of those things where, like, I agree with the national sentiment. It's time to have a discussion on some of this stuff, and it's time to actually, yeah. And
so some of the things I've seen over the last couple of years have been horrific to me from a law enforcement perspective, knowing that these are guys that go out, wear the same uniform I do the same thing I do.
Yeah.
And clearly don't uphold the same morals.
Well, right. And it's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, my mom says the same stuff about school teachers. She says that...
It was in fire when I was a firefighter. You got guys fucking pocketing shit off of a fire scene. Every profession has their shit heels. Right now, policing's in the spotlight, and it should be, probably.
Well, yeah, and that's the one thing is I don't understand. Again, I've told people many times, like, I'm not a political channel. I don't have like a political ideology, and if I do have one, that's probably my business, and I'm probably not going to jam it down your throat, and I'm not going to think less of you if you don't embrace my way of thinking. But I just believe in this common mutual respect, and I find that people have forgotten that like empathy is a two-way street. And this is, again, kind of a universal American thing because, like, in 911, you see the worst 90 seconds of a human's life over and over and over again. And that's all you get. And you get no resolution. So it's like edging, but not pleasant. You know, it's PTSD edging. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's like a paper cut for your soul. And you deal with that. And all you hear is the worst part of people's lives all day. And then people go, I don't know why that 911 dispatcher was so unprofessional. Or I don't know why that one cop was an asshole. And I'm like, well, empathy goes two ways. And you don't, you know.
So one of my worst experiences on shift was I came out and almost immediately there was a call for a choking 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I tried to save her and I was unsuccessful. And do you know what I did for the rest of the day? My job.
Yeah.
I had to go and answer your call for service at 1 a.m. because the dog next door won't shut up after having been through that experience.
Yeah.
With her blood on my uniform.
Yeah.
You don't know what somebody's dealt with earlier in their shift that has put them in that position. And they probably don't mean to be an asshole. They're just short on social and emotional reserve right now.
Oh, yeah. And most cops I know, when I dispatched, were like 10 fucking calls deep by the time they got on shift. I mean, I'd put a unit on the board, he'd be 9-10 calls deep. Imagine showing up for work and they're like, hey, you're 8 hours behind? And then something horrible happens? And then someone's a Karen to you? It's like, yeah, I get why bad shit happens. Now, I'm not excusing the bad behavior.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Like, but there's also like extenuating circumstances. Like people bitch all day about how shitty and weight and airlines is, but they also don't ever want to pay stewardesses and pilots more. You know, I mean, people forget that, like, before that plane went down in the Hudson and Sully saved everyone's fucking life, they were complaining about being overworked and underpaid on the flight recorder. I mean, these are guys who are put into a terrible situation, and they're applauded when they save the day, but they're shit on every other minute of the day. And it's one of those things I've constantly told people about is you don't know what somebody's fucking been through. Just be nice. Like it's a little bit of effort.
It costs nothing.
Well, it costs a little bit. I mean, if sometimes people are really hard to be nice to, like really, really hard.
Okay,
like,
but the long-term cost is negligible.
Well, right, but I'm saying like if someone has just like set your shoes on fire, you know, that's more effort than if a little kid comes up to you and asks you for help. Those are two different scenarios. See,
very true.
We started recording a ship posting stream, or not stream.
And have accidentally gotten serious, so we should probably back it up.
No, that's fine, because people play my RimWorld, and I'll go on to this huge long thing about, like, dealing with imposter syndrome and anxiety, and then I'll be distracted by something, and I'll be like, those termites are back.
Interesting point about that.
Yeah.
So I randomly out of the blue had a officer that I really respect. She's a hard charger. She's missing a leg and is still a police officer.
Fuck yeah, man.
And
right
probably one of the best that I know.
Fuck yeah.
Absolutely. When I'm sitting there thinking maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I can't do this anymore, I look at her and she's still chugging away.
Yeah, and you're like, well...
She pulls me... Yeah, she's with another agency. She pulls me into the office and she asks me about feeling imposter syndrome. She described it. She didn't know the word for it, but she described it. And that was when I realized that probably most of us deal with that in our everyday life.
Well,
People that I thought really had their shit together are still fighting with that, same as I do.
Well, right. And I like, some people didn't like it when I started talking about my personal life, but I also told them I started this whole channel as fucking therapy for PTSD so they can fucking blow me. It's, I'm playing to the same 5 people that have been watching since the beginning, and I will continue to play for those same 5 people because they still tell me they like my stuff. And I'd rather do a goddamn good job for those same 5 people than be someone else for like 10 million, right? But even though I'm in my zone and as a creator, I'm doing good things and I'm doing things in an ethical manner and raising a lot of money and shit posting while doing it. That's like a blessing to be able to like hardcore shit post like an asshole and make like Knife Fight City real, like absolutely real, and then make it into something that raises money for wounded warriors? That's insane. But I'm here, and that lets me know that maybe I'm doing things a good way. And maybe I should keep doing things the way I'm doing them. And I think that's important. But I still deal with imposter syndrome. I mean, I still feel I do not enough. I mean, I still have fans telling me, like, you're doing too much. You should slow down. You're starting to get into posting too much, Tex. No, this isn't good. And I have people babying me. I mean, I had a good portion of my fucking fan base trying to say, we need to find you a girlfriend who knows how to pull you away from things that are destructive. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like a therapist? And one of them said, no, we were thinking more judo. And I was like, that's mean. And they're like, actually, it's not that destructive.
Mentally pull away.
No, they were like, mental stuff won't work on you. You're really stubborn. So we're just going to find someone who knows judo. And I was like, well, that's not nice. And they're like, yeah, but judo doesn't do any lasting damage. And so you know,
it takes a long time to master. But the only guy who could consistently kick my ass in DT was this crusty old captain who'd spent a bunch of years in the Army and then went over to Federal DOC, and they taught him Aikido. That dude could use the leverage of my own skeletal structure to push me over. God. There was nothing I could do to stop it.
I knew a guy who knew Savat once, and I watched him literally kick the shit out of someone. He went to a MMA match, and it was like, go, and the guy kicked the guy in the gut so hard he pooped. And it was like, over. And I just went like, whoa, did you literally... That's just a rule for me. I shit my pants during the workday. It's over. I'm going home. I think that is sane advice. Like, I feel really unqualified to give sage advice. People write to me for sage advice, and I go, I don't even have my own shit handled. Like, I have no sage. By the way, we're winning this gun battle so far, which is...
Well, that's because the rest of them don't want to get in range.
Well, that's the thing that's weird is I know why I can't...
Usually they're pretty aggressive.
Well, I can't see their battleship formation, and the reason I can't see their battleship formation is because the smoke. They might as well not exist. I've been tagging and setting their guys on fire because I switched to just HE only, and they're using... Okay, it looks like their heavy cruisers have 9-inch guns, and that's a problem, but they have a mix of everything else. It's flotsam and jetsam and just crap. So my cruisers with just all 6-inch guns and carrying still 2,600 rounds of ammunition are just going to keep dropping it on them. And it's all HE, so he's going to have a bad day. But no, I have people who will come out of nowhere and say, Tex, I need advice on this or that. And I don't feel qualified because, like, here I am as a 37-year-old person who is loved and cared for by many good friends and compatriots. And by many, in my case, I mean, like 5+ is a lot for me because I'm not a social person. And I have people who write me and go, I wish to be like you. And I'm like, motherfucker, I don't know what I am. Like that's
all I know is I'm not enjoying it. I'm not having a good time.
Yeah, it's like, do you think I chose to be this way? It's like, you're locked in here with me. No, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I tell people that all the time. I'm not an expert. I'm an asshole. Don't think I'm an expert.
Yeah.
I have some strong opinions on some things.
I'm not a stoic by choice. I'm just emotionally crippled.
Well, you're not wrong. I
was talking about myself.
Oh,
if you see yourself there.
I do. I find a lot of things where people say, "Isn't this great?" And I go, "Huh." and it's one of those things where I see myself as one person called me a cynical humanist, where I don't believe anybody, but I'll still give them money. And I don't know.
Pessimistic optimist.
I guess. I see myself in my
That's
job.
how I've been described, as the most pessimistic optimist.
Well, I don't know. I got that G3 trigger job to feel like no G3 in the world, so you can't say that's bad now, can you?
No. No, I've been told I'm the only person that can sound bored in the middle of a high-speed pursuit.
Well, when I used to dispatch, I would auctioneer it when I got excited. So I'm like, all right, we got all these units rolling to it. All right, clear dispatch. And then a click, and then there are people like, what? And I'm like, stand by, engine 5, roll 2. We have an advanced life support required at the block of, and then you just do that slow thing because, when you hit the klaxon and the fire alarm, half the time they don't pick up. And then you have to call the chief and be like,
they were asleep. They got to wake up.
Yeah, so you be like, buzz, hey, house burning down. And they're like, we stayed up all night watching all the Ghostbusters to take notes on the differences. And,
Hey, that is a valid reason.
You were a firefighter, so you're just smiling. People can't see it, but it's...
I'm grinning fucking ear to ear because, yeah, we did shit like that.
Yeah, no, that was my whole time. Like,
make like a 30-pound pot of chili.
Yep.
And then all sit around the fucking bunkhouse and do stupid shit, like talk about the differences in uniforms between the Ghostbusters.
The one I went to, I called one and I heard them like emptying fire extinguishers at each other just to drain them in the background because I was calling just to see a unit availability because we had our sheet up. And we had some engines down and we're like, hey, is this maintenance record correct? Like, what do you got we can pull? And we just heard in the background like, and they're like, and I'm like,
yeah.
This why?
Well, the water in there gets stale. You got to recharge it.
We got to let the excited gases out. Otherwise, we'll have trouble.
That's wonderful for chimney fires. You get an expired extinguisher, you shoot it all out into a hefty bag and tie it off and throw it on the engine. Somebody gets a chimney fire, you go, that chimney is on fire, and you throw it on top of the logs, the hefty bag melts, and it just goes right up the fucking chimney and puts it out.
That's awesome.
And then you don't have to put any water on the fucking house.
My favorite was all the times that fire departments would show up on site and then say that there was an accident leaving the scene. And I was like, no, I think you drove through that on the way there. Because they'll be like, oh, yeah, we clipped a fence. And I'm like, you're in a yard. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to talk about that one. That one was a bit gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's the reason I like making content the way I do is that like you and I can just talk from this really weird, anonymous, intimate, personal angle and share with people that, it's okay to like not be able to deal with shit because you and I are both products of like tragic backgrounds, but we're also products of like Fred Rogers. And so we grew up with these moral compasses that told us, like, it's okay to be scared and not know what's going on, so long as you have some good make-believe friends or some crack or whatever. And, I don't even like to joke about Fred Rogers because I feel really bad when I, like, make a joke. Like, he would just go, that's not funny. And then I'd be like, oh, no, I made him sad.
Yeah.
I think you'd be
I
all
don't
right.
know. I think the best way to sum him up is the story that he got his car stolen, and when they realized it was his car, it was returned.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
That's the kind of mark that man made on this country.
like people feel bad that. I mean, people feel bad just wronging him. Like years
Yeah.
later, I as an adult am like, oh, I'm gonna say fucked up shit, and then like it comes to Fred Rogers, and I like watch my language.
Yeah.
It would be
Well,
yeah.
there's the meme going around that it's the Holy Trinity. Steve Irwin was kindness to animals. Mr. Rogers was kindness to others. And Bob Ross was kindness to yourself. And I think there's a lot of truth there.
That's probably true. I mean, I think that it's interesting that even in bad times we think back on, the moral compass, and a lot of people will think, "Oh, the downfall of the church," and whatever they want to ascribe to the current state of unkindness. And I think it's no, we need more Bob Rosses, and we need more Mr. Rogers, and we need people who, just like to do what they do. And I was hoping originally that YouTube was going to be a place like that. And it kind of is and kind of isn't, because there are still people like that, but they're like,
But they're awash in a sea of everything else.
well, it's the one thing that really makes me wonder is what I call the Melville problem, because you have Herman Melville, who writes the great American novel, and knows a story about a fish. And I know it's not a fish, but
Yeah, there's absolutely no subtext in that novel at all. It's just about a man who really fucking hates that whale.
right, but it's about a guy who hates a fucking whale. But it's probably one of the most gripping stories about like the human soul, and it's people who think Moby Dick is boring need to read it again, because in the first chapter you'll be quoting stuff. You'll be going, "There's all the difference in the world between paying and being paid."
A lot of the great novels, people they give a cursory surface level glance to, and if they go back, they realize that those are all about the human condition.
Yeah, and they make you think about it. So Melville writes this book. He dies penniless, and then some generations later, a guy finds an old copy of this limited print, reads it, puts it back in print, and now everyone reads it, and it's the great American novel. And so the thing is the reason that book disappeared for so long is that was in an era where information, especially publications of that sort, were not really kept or archived or anything else. So many things were created, were used, and then destroyed, and never to be seen again. And so there's a lot of limited printings. Well, now we can all print on demand, and now we are creating information at such a point that it's becoming increasingly difficult to find what you want, especially with an algorithm weighting your search returns and saying, no, this is what you need to see, and removing the user's want or interest from it, which is how YouTube is now versus how it was when it started. And you could go down a crazy rabbit hole and find these people like making games out of cardboard. And that's where you find these amazing people out there.
Yeah.
And
even if you don't want to read the classics, there's more out there that you can go to. The novel, or actually it's the memoirs of David Kenyon Webster. He was in 506. It's what primarily Band of Brothers was based on. His memoirs pulled no punches about the war, about conflict, about the United States or our military at the time. He wrote those memoirs, tried to get them published, was told, we don't need that kind of shit right now. We've just won the war. Let's just be happy. And he disappeared in a mysterious shark fishing accident.
A shark fishing accident.
Yep, his boat came back. He didn't. Yeah, that happened in, I want to say 52 or 53. In the mid 60s, his memoirs are finally published in the height of the anti-war Vietnam phase.
And that's the thing, is you find a lot of these voices are there's a lot of these voices out there that are lost in history, and it's why I often tell people in history is I'd rather not do a history lecture and just tell you what I think about something. I want to teach not only history but historiography, which is what I've been doing with Text Talks Battletech from the beginning, and most people haven't noticed. I want people to see how history is written and who writes it and all the perspectives that go into it, by instead of just saying, this is robot, it have arm shoot. I want to go, here's who made it, and here's why they made it, and here's the forces at play behind it, and here's why they would see things from this perspective. But in reality, here's the reality of it. But this wouldn't be known until a later date. And so you have to look at that crazy, like historians, when we write stuff, we put facts in the center, and then we have the crazy little web of threads we connect to all these things that don't do anything. And we just start
to tie it back in.
Yeah.
Nothing happens in a vacuum.
Yeah. And it's go ahead.
Nobody could ever, even this conversation we're having now, we have no way of knowing any of the follow-on effects of talking.
No, we don't. And
we don't know how it's going to affect various things throughout. We may be helping somebody, feel okay with themselves for the first time in forever.
Or the strength to realize they need help, or realize that even we feel like crap a lot and we're just trying to get by, and we're offering a perspective. It's one of those things where I find often enough people just, want to be treated with a little bit of respect, but people also want to try to understand and learn. But I'm also finding a thing that I'm very afraid of, which is people not understanding that to truly access information, you have to go search for accurate information. And so I worry when someone gets the Post-it note size view of history, considering history kind of governs a lot of things. And I hate when someone goes, oh, this is the takeaway from this event. And you go, well, no, there's a lot more to it than that. It's as you say, nothing happens in a vacuum. If you want to see a real a real warfighter's perspective, you don't read Band of Brothers. That's a very interesting collection of stories, and it's good. It's good history. But if you want to get into primary sources, you got to go read somebody's memoirs. You got to go dig through battlefield letters. You got to go dig through people's letters home and read the raw, horrible shit they were talking about at that point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to see a side of the Civil War that blows your fucking hair back, read their letters. Like, read their fucking correspondence about somebody who's just some guy from somewhere, and he's been put on a train for the first time in his life, and he's suddenly 4 states away, and it's the furthest he's ever been from home. And now he's fighting somebody, and he's like, this is weird. And then he starts writing it, and you find that voice in history frozen for all time. And you can read it as it was.
If you've got an interest in history and you're still working off a high school level knowledge of it, go find primary sources.
Yeah, I mean,
start reading in, because those are all just a snapshot of general themes. There's so much documented there that you couldn't cover it in a master's level course.
Right, and that's what I tell people is that I tell people that when you get fucking degrees in history, it's like you get your bachelor's degree in a big broad area, and then you get your master's degree in a narrow area, and then you get your doctorate in a narrowest area, and then you have to start all over in another era of history, and you have to try to slowly feel these areas out. So you find specialists in very narrow fields. And so with all of these people dedicating lifetimes of study and finding all this information, the fact that people don't go look for it is insane to me. They go, I need to hear it from someone on YouTube. And I'm like, no, let no one be the barrier to your knowledge. This is your chance to set your mind fucking free and find out who you are. I mean,
we are in an era where almost the entirety of human knowledge is at everyone's fingertips.
Well, it's the age of information.
We use it to watch cat videos.
Well, right. It's the age of information, but it's also the age of Reddit. So yeah. It's one of those things where the summation of no one is as dumb as all of us has never been summed up with the phrase greater than we did it Reddit. holy shit. Where they're like, we caught the bomb. No, you didn't. In fact, you hampered an investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, God, the mob. So anyways, they've given me one cruiser, and they've refused to actually engage in any sort of battle. They're just...
And your cruiser, that cruiser's been trying to beat up on your battleship there. It's not been having very good luck.
It's not. I don't know where their battleship fleet is. It's out there somewhere. I'm pelting their fleet, and it's leaving. I'm just pelting it. I'm like... It's not...
So this is...
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not the overwhelming success that was the American experience in Manila Bay.
Well, I think the American experience at Manila Bay was largely, I think the Spanish fleet was pretty much low on everything and very much like not willing to fight.
Including morale and training.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, hey, this is a dump squadron at the end of the world. All you have to do is just sit there and, make sure the taxes are paid and you're a fleet in being and don't do anything without orders.
You are there to look very impressive to the Filipinos who've never seen another fleet.
Right, and then here comes our fleet that's just like, what the fuck is a kilometer? And just starts dropping rounds everywhere. Yeah, it's a different kind of war. Because we just show up and we're like, we're at war, and they're like, what? And then it's like...
I need to look it up again, but I want to say that we determined we landed more shells on the shore than we did on the Spanish ships in the opening salvos of the war.
How dare you? Range finding's hard. You have to take the two images and make them overlap.
Accidentally shore bombarded the Philippines trying to hit the fleet.
Well, we had to let them know we were serious. We had to let them know we were big dick serious. We wanted them to know we meant business. I don't get it.
It's that most common of pistol shot errors thrown over the right shoulder. It's the warning shot.
That's fair. But no, we're rolling. We got all these battleships, and we're just steaming toward them. And I don't think we're gonna run out of shots. I mean, the battery on this battleship has like 15,000 2-inch shells.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep...
You haven't let go any torpedoes either.
I have to get in range to do that.
I know. But if need be, you could close range and start throwing torps in the water.
If need be.
You absolutely run out of everything else.
All right, well, I'm increasing the battle formation speed to flank, and the best they can do is 12 knots right now. However, I have switched to AP, which I'm not sure if that's actually going to do anything. All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's Des Moines. Oh, come on. Get wrecked. Get fucking wrecked. He's just leaving. This isn't fair.
How dare you sail faster than I can?
Yeah, they're just staying out of range, and they're not willing to do anything. This is very...
throwing ineffective long shots at you.
They can't penetrate it.
Which is period correct.
No, I mean, this is why battles from this era would have been fucking boring unless they happened in like a soup box. I know that's a phrase that means
like
nothing.
Like Manila Bay?
I mean, look at this. It probably helped the Spanish fleet was...
It would be interesting if they would add land.
I think it would be...
had obstacles. It's not just open sea.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this game is still in development, but I'd love to see a harbor defense mission or a... I hear they're going to put in a campaign, so that's going to be pretty cool.
Port Arthur, your...
Yeah, that would be...
Russo-Japanese War.
Stuff like that. Danzig.
Danzig, yes.
Yeah.
The Free City of Danzig. God. Yeah. That entire thing is just crazy. When you look at the Polish and what they managed to do in defending their positions in that city during the opening days of the war.
Oh, yeah. Fucking bonkers. I mean, oh, God. All right, so we managed to chase down one of their cruisers. The Smonk fleet is steaming up there. And I haven't even spotted their battleships. They haven't even spotted mine. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that with them leaving at speed, we win. But it's a stalemate. I think we need to throw down because they don't get the Philippines. All right?
Nope.
So what we need to do is
their furthest advance would be Wake then.
Yeah. So
right? Yeah.
So what do I think they'd get Cuba.
Well, yes, Cuba.
I mean,
pushing into the Pacific, the Philippines was our anchor for all expansion beyond.
All right, so let's do it again. And this is 1901, and it is 1901, and we are going to try to get Cuba back. Now,
let's yank the distance down a little bit as well.
All right, yeah, because this is still shit era. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the American AZ? I'm trying to think of the squadrons we had, because we had basically an Atlantic and a Pacific squadron of battleships, and they and then
the Asiatic squadron was all cruisers and below, which was primarily chugging around China at the time.
All right, so let's do battle 8-on-8. I think that's pretty big for the era.
Yeah.
All right, so we need a Huapo. We need a, let's see, Battleship 3? What the fuck? Because I'm not building that. That is wrong. That's not being built by me. That's not a hull I'm interested in. No. We're doing this one. This one I like. This one, I know it's a weird superstructure, but I like it. I know it's dumb, but yeah.
A lot of dumb things were happening at the turn of the century.
Well, yeah, it's why I constantly try to remind people that no one knows what the next war is going to look like. And everybody who goes, next gen, next intel, an elevated weapon system, it's a next gen warfighter, it's a first one. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about. No one knows what the future is. If everybody
even seeing 10 years into the future for nascent technologies is difficult.
Well, yeah,
we did not predict that drones would become as armed as quickly and become as effective as they are. You look at some of the drone use against the Turkish right now, it's horrifying what they are able to accomplish with essentially no infrastructure.
Oh yeah, I mean it's drones are a lot big of a player than we thought. We thought we would have like T-800 robots, like that, and that's just in the 80s. They were like, we'll have walking skeleton lasers. I mean, I know that's a movie, but I remember seeing articles on could we have a walking man robot, and then you see all the DARPA competitions where it can't even open a door, so we're safe from Skynet. Whereas they're like, all right. The robot has
the best fucking thing. I've got a friend who is he's got a doctorate in robotics. He works for Procter and Gamble. Dude's just absolutely freaking crazy, right? For instance, he took like 3 weeks, and he programmed his robot one of his robots with an actuating arm to go press the stop button on the next robot over. Emergency stop their machine, not cause any damage, but just stop the process. And then he set it to do it every 45 minutes and just set it on a wait cycle so that every 45 minutes it's hitting the stop process on the next machine over and screwing that guy over.
God.
And then he went on vacation, and this 10-ton machine that is bolted to the frame of the building is able to take this tiny little arm and go and press that button. And then go back to its static position as if nothing is the matter.
Oh, that's horrible.
Isn't it? That's so horrible.
That's horrible. And see, I remember
second or third time it happened, the guy called him and he's like, "Yeah, this is what's going on. Shut my machine down. It's just in standby mode."
Oh, that's awful, man. I love it though. I love shenanigans. So we're going with not black powder. We're going with the volatiles
Picric acid.
The volatiles of volatiles. Watch out for the rust. It's explosive.
Yep. Oops. all powder.
They found out that if you take that picric acid, one of the things they found out about it that was really, really messed up was like, oh, you compress it into cakes and it's less dangerous. And they're like, no, it's actually not. It's just not compressed. It won't go off on accident.
Compressed danger.
Well, it's like the same thing of corning gunpowder. You know, if you corn gunpowder, it's safer to store, yes, but it's not safe.
No less dangerous.
All right, so mid belt, fore belt, aft belt. Yeah, we know we're gonna have to tangle with the Americans, so we can't make pussy ass battleships. We gotta make some like tough.
Like I would even say maybe lose your middle of your lower guns to get more room for armor.
All right.
God, that really didn't do much though.
No, those are tiny gun turrets. All right, conning tower only needs 8 inches. Fuck officers. Actually, let's make the fore belt 5 inches and the foredeck 3 inches. There we go. 2.5. There we go. 2.2. Yeah. All right. So here's what we got. We've got the yeah. Yes. El Guapo de Second. All right, and then we do. Yeah, it's just battleships, isn't it? All right, let's do this. It is just
battleships.
Dude, we're going to picric acid the shit out of this fleet. I ain't using AP for nothing. Oh, look at that. He went with long boy and cage mass. I went with short boy. Yeah.
Yep.
Intrepido. Oh, man, we got.
Poder.
Yeah, we got. Oh, man. All right, let's get all this HE going. You want to fucking fight? Let's go, bro. All right. I got to choose which one dies. One moment. You get the HE. Let's see what they got. What? Whoa, look at that. I love that it has guns all in one. Oh, that is stupid. That thing will explode for days.
Oh, and they're facing away from us, too.
You know, it's times like this I'm really grateful that I made the choice to switch to war crime rounds, because I'm going to burn the fuck out of these things, because they gave me basically a nice flat shot trap. Back to Chelsea. As soon as these things come in and start, okay, we just fired. Here we go. All right. Okay, so we learned a few things.
For first rounds, that's not bad.
He's bracketed. They've got some of the permutations correct. they've ranged it, yes.
There's so much just weird little intricate things you've got to worry about in naval gunnery.
Yeah, it's where you have whole plotting rooms, which is like, all right, we got to do some crackerjack math to sink those Japanese destroyers, and then they're just sitting there using
it's time for some aggressive calculus. Let's do it before they do it to us.
Let's do it before the ship moves too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, we sailed too far. We need to restart these calculations.
Ugh, I love the calculating computers like on Iowa classes, where they're just like, they use them in Desert Storm and they plot perfectly, and they're like, oh cool, when were these made? And it's like 1939.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotta put grease in your computer. Okay, so far we are shooting long and nothing's happening. As soon as this picric acid...
I saw it. There is a ricochet. I was going to say I saw a ricochet on our ship.
Intrepido. Powder, San Pedro Apostol. De la Garda. Sobibero. San Ignacio El Guapo. All right, so yeah, he's turning to present. I don't know what Battlefleet maneuver this is. This is more like seeing a bunch of armored units do like a herringbone, but they didn't talk about beforehand who goes right and who goes left. So it's just like, oh, and you're like, that looks like a Chinese finger trap. I'm going to set it on fire. Oh, damn.
Those came closer. Long and then short. So that's a bracket.
Long and short. The story of my poops.
There's a partial penetration.
That's what she said. Ha ha, penis. But yeah, we started off heavy and now we're just talking about blah blah. This is like the Black Pants Legion in a nutshell. Like, no, and as long as we can educate, I'm fine with it. I mean, we're not mentioning names and what kind of ice cream we like. That's a good point of topic. By the way, Mike's got a hell of an episode of Far Cry 5 with a cop, including a bonus episode where you and I just like rambled about like for 3 hours in detail on all of these little things. And he's just going to put title cards in between. That's like Texan deputy talk about corn dogs. And it's just an hour of that. And yeah, I hope people are
hell
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just...
No, he made up his traveler character.
Oh no, what's he got?
He's got
for people who don't know, Deputy's running a traveler game. We've all started making characters. Yes, it will be recorded. Now, go. What's Mike got?
Mike's got a thief with ties to a criminal organization who then got arrested. When he got out, he took to grave robbing as a profession.
So we've got just like this really slimy guy who's like, I'm a master thief. And when I went to jail, I learned my lesson. I got into grave robbing.
Yes. Yep.
Oh my God. Well, we made my guy.
And he's 200,000 credits in debt.
Oh my God.
Because he took anti-aging drugs.
So
he's remarkably vain as well.
This is great. I did. Oh man, my ship's on fire. Maybe my picric acid blew up. I don't know. This happens.
And he's got a breaker bar with attachments. He's real excited about it.
That's great. I've got well, I mean,
for all your grave robbing needs.
For all your grave robbing. That's horrible. I love it though. Oh, we started a fire. Excellent.
Yeah, so we're for background, we're pulling together a traveler campaign that will probably be on the Courtesy Flush. Were we going to do that live or just record?
I think we're just going to record it, not live. Okay. Just that way, because you're DMing, it's your call, but it's one of those things.
I think I'd be comfortable with either at this point, but
all right. Because it's one of those things where, like, I want everyone playing to not worry about an audience.
True. Yeah, Diggs had mentioned some of that. So let's probably just record it. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and
he's taking a little bit of hits, but he's coming out okay.
Yeah, it's mostly not going through.
I thought he was burning from a while away, but I think it's just the smoke out of the coal.
Oh, he was burning. It's just
there we go.
Yeah. Oh, we hit the Utah.
Nah, not the Utah.
The stars at night have many wives. Deep in the heart of Utah. What's their song? I don't know.
Oh, State Song of Utah?
State Song of Utah. Is it All My Exes Live in Texas, or?
That's where I went, but I don't think that's correct.
Is it something referencing John Moses Browning? Is it like Battle Hymn of the Republic?
We'll go ahead and go to the 2001 Dell keyboard that I got state surplus from an insane asylum.
Oh, of course.
It's Utah. This is the place.
For what?
The original state song was Utah, We Love Thee. But that is now the state hymn.
Oh.
The lyrics are Utah, people working together, Utah, what a ... And I'm not clicking that link.
All right, so... It's like, okay, if you got a place, like, Parma, Ohio, right? And you need to like sing a song.
Ohio.
Yeah, and you need to sing a song. You know, it has to be catchy, like "Moon Over Parma," da 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 da, bum 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 bum. You know, you have something that's happy, and then people were like, "Oh, you're that city about the song," and then they hopefully have a positive association before you show them whatever. You know, you're like, nah, now check out my illegal, alligator fatting pit, or you show your Florida man or whatever. But they have that positive association, so you start off on good feet. But like, what Utah, my Utah, or this is the place? I mean, that sounds like a fucking Pepsi commercial. Pepsi is it for what? Like cleaning car battery terminals? I'm more a Sprite guy myself, but I don't know. I mean, what is the okay, let's see how much information I know about Utah. What is this Utah state bird? Let's
Oh, okay. So you're gonna guess and I'm gonna fact check it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm going to say the Utah state bird is some sort of either desert roadrunner and or buzzard.
No. It's one you will never guess.
All right.
It's the seagull.
What? What?
The California gull, aka colloquially the seagull, is the state bird of Utah.
The fucking thing that you find in any fucking Wendy's parking lot anywhere in the continental United States. The thing that will bite your car keys
They're
out of
the
your...
only ones that like Wendy's fries.
It's true. Outside of a Wendy's once, I saw a seagull that was too fat to fly. I thought it was a swan. It was just sitting there breathing hard. And I'm like, oh, why?
Oh, man.
America.
So why is the goal?
Did John Moses Browning kill all the other birds? Dude, just...
It's believed to be in commemoration of the fact that seagulls saved the people of the state by eating up the Rocky Mountain cricket infestation, which was destroying crops in 1848.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. I mean, I don't know. If I was fucking Utah, the state's logo would just be that really stern picture of John Moses Browning looking forward. And the state motto would be, they all fall to hardball. I know that's dumb. I know that's one person from
It's called the Miracle of the Gulls.
The Miracle of the Gulls.
Uh-huh. Well, fuck.
Well, do they have...
Okay, so with that in mind, now knowing that information, that's a little bit shitty to call Mormons crickets then. Have you never heard that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, evidently it's a thing.
The people call Mormons crickets?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, but they settled up here in St. Joe, and that's what they got called.
That's weird. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that, like...
I mean, it's like a spaghetti western. When I grew up and I was like, that's why it's called that. That's a little bit offensive.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But I love spaghetti westerns. I also love Bollywood movies.
As well.
Oh, I love Bollywood movies where they'll take something that's like really technically hard to do, like The Matrix, but they'll make it with like $80. And I'm like, yes. But my favorite are like Wakaliwood movies, like the Ugandan movies where they're like, let's make 30 movies this week for $8. And I love it. I love the CGI. I love the special effects. I love the crazy scenes where, they have a whole like bank kiosk made out of cardboard and then everyone else is acting very serious. I fucking love that. I love people just having fun with their friends and making shit. That's like my favorite.
Yeah, we lay no claim to better quality here.
No, absolutely not. So it looks like the Utah I've managed to shell to the ground.
Yeah, it's not having a good time.
Well, I wanted to burn him, and that's what we're doing. Now, I'm going to send both of my battle divisions into the American fleet. I'm going to cross the T before Trafalgar, or after Trafalgar, and before Jutland. So this is a pre-Dreadnought Jutland, essentially. And I like it. I like that we're managing to actually land hits, but we're also starting to take some pretty bad bonks back. I don't know why my battle formation is being so stupid, but here's what we're going to do. We're just going to form up in a giant thing, and we're going to just go straight at them as best we can.
What's the earliest that you can do on this?
I think 1890. So you're seeing armored.
Do they let you try the mixed sail and coal ships?
No,
that would be kind of ridiculous.
That would be cool, but no, that's all phased out. It's all engines by then, sadly.
I know.
But I would love to see this, especially in an era of just timber and iron. I would love to see the end of the Age of Sail and the beginning of the Age of Steam.
So do the naval battles from Total War Empire or Total War Napoleon really, really well and extend it into the Age of Steel and engines.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, those naval battles were essentially their own game, and a lot of people realized that. and then they were like, okay, well, let's never build anything that sophisticated ever again. And then they didn't. And
well,
yeah, it's because it's Creative Assembly. Like, Creative Assembly is so hit and miss with their shit that I get really offended, because I look at, like, Shogun 2, I consider to be their best game in terms of gameplay styles, levels of units, length of play, how much shit you get when the game starts. Like, you don't have to buy 800 DLCs to play more than 4 people. Depth, balance, a lot of fun stuff. And then you get like DLCs like Follow the Samurai that are standalone and great, like fucking phenomenal campaigns. Again, with thousands of hours of gameplay.
Opinion, better than the original game.
In many ways, and I thought it was really well done and brilliant, and I'm not a huge guy in Japanese history, and I found it fascinating. Like I said, this is really well done. It's really fun. I really enjoy myself. And then the problem was that they'll do stuff like Warhammer, where it's like you have to buy 2 games and all the DLC in order to get the thing you wanted in the first place, but there's still, no, not going to play that. The one thing that...
Well, it's about to be 3. They're coming out with Warhammer 3.
Good, and I'm sure it'll launch with, like, 1 playable faction by this time. Because if you look back at, like, Medieval 2, you had, like, 1 million factions, and you unlocked more as you played. And then at a certain point, they said, you know what? I think that people need less agency and choice, so let's go ahead and do away with that. And so you see, like, Fallout, a game where you can come up with some really interesting dialogue and what have you, go from a game that's, like, brilliant and in-depth to yes, no, snarky, yes, and leave.
No, but also yes.
Right,
yes.
Just when you take player choice away from you in a game, I don't think that that's enhancing it. I think that's diminishing it.
And, yeah. Well, as we push further and further on the graphical improvement side, we lose more and more on the technical capability side.
Well,
even aside things like crunch time and over promising and under delivering, which has been a problem in the industry for a decade.
No, well, that's been forever. I mean, if you look at game companies, 1 million rise, 3 make it, and 1 lives on to become the monster they swear they'd never be. I mean, that's they've been promising the moon and not giving shit for a long time. I mean,
there's a reason why the Atari crashed.
Well, it's not only that. Look at fucking Peter Molyneux. Like, he's been around forever, and you just like look at his interviews where he's like, "This game will have all these things," and then I remember what was hilarious is a guy sat down with Peter Molyneux and just finally asked him, like, "Are you a pathological liar?" And he's like, "No, I'm a game developer." Like, and that kind of clicked for me. Like, No, he's a product of that era, that generation, that time. He's not like I don't think he's a pathological liar. I think that's just how they are. It's like a used car salesman, you know? You come up with ideas and whether or not it gets made, who cares? It's your idea.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas are inherently private and therefore very hard to judge. But I still can't seem to sink the Utah, despite knowing that its state bird is in fact the seagull. I think that's hilarious.
The goals keep it afloat, despite the fact that every compartment is on fire at this point.
I mean, it's mostly on fire. The outside looks okay. It's just the problem that picric acid is awful and it burns real good. And I keep smashing him with it. Oh man, this idiot is way out of formation on his own. That's not good. But
yeah, those guys are swinging around to try and help, but they're not.
There are attempts being made. The Utah's not doing so great, so I'm going to try to concentrate on the South Dakota. It's a little closer. But yeah, I find myself offended by people who go, "Oh my God, Tex, look at this game. It's the best game ever." And I go, "That looks a lot like Dwarf Fortress." And they go, "No, it's not. It's different. It does this and that and this and that." And I'm like, "Dwarf Fortress does that." And they go, "No, well, you don't understand, Tex. It's got all the, and it's made by the," and I'm like, "That's Dwarf Fortress." And they're like, "Well, no, it can also do it." And I'm like, "That's in Dwarf Fortress." And I just point out, like, no, I'd just rather play Dwarf Fortress. Like, I have a game I like playing. And so I have this weird thing where people give me games and they're like, "Please play this and enjoy it." And I appreciate the gesture. I do. But I'm like a guy who likes 5 things. And I don't have room for more things I like. I have a very limited capacity. I don't like stuff. And people keep giving me stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. Don't do this. Like, one guy tried to give me a game last week, and he was like, "I missed your birthday." And I'm like, "You don't know me." And he says, "Well, here's a..." And he tried to give me a $50 game, and I said, "I will accept this game if you go out and buy yourself a Wagyu T-bone and cook it." And he was like, "That makes me uncomfortable." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what self-compassion's about. And I'm in therapy for it. So yeah, now we both feel awkward." And he's like, "Holy shit, I haven't thought about myself. I've never treated myself like that in my life." And I'm like, "How old are you?" And he's like, "I'm 48. And I was like, "Jesus Christ." And he's like, "Yeah, holy shit." And so he messaged me back and he's like, "I went and got a massage." And I was like, "Nice." So it was that moment of like, holy crap. Like, that made him realize it. But yeah, I don't like people just...
Have you ever had a Wagyu helper?
Wagyu? Oh, okay. I have a cursed idea. I have a very cursed idea. What if we did something like a hamburger helper, but using all top shelf ingredients from scratch? So we look at what's in the box of hamburger helper, except we either buy from an Italian place that day made pasta noodles, or we like make them ourselves. And then we go get like aged Wagyu, and we get all fresh ground ingredients, and we just make
Wisconsin cheddar fresh off
God, like a high-end hamburger helper. It's like making tater tot casserole from like scratch. Yeah.
No, we'll make fucking, 5-star restaurant hamburger helper.
I would sometimes it's about comfort food, and I'm fine with that.
I have had Wagyu helper.
Tell this story.
Had a friend who was not very well off.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Sure.
And his dad had the opportunity to pick up some Wagyu. So he did, and he's like, "Here's what I've got. It's supposed to be very, very high quality beef. We should do something special with it." His wife didn't understand exactly how high quality it was, and made hamburger helper with it.
So,
and I just happened to be over that night, so I had Wagyu helper.
How was it?
It was okay. A little bit bland, if I'm honest.
People are just like downvoting right now. They're just like downvote, quote, Wagyu helper, end quote. And it just has like it has the shrug emoticon on the box. It doesn't have the hand. It just has the shrug emoticon, like, mom's tired.
Yeah. Well, so if your hamburger helper sits on the shelf too long, it starts to lose some of that potency, right? It gets blander over time. Ask me how I know. So I think that those were old boxes of hamburger helper.
I remember, okay, years and years ago, I had eaten this edible, and I had eaten this edible while I was playing Planet Side 2 when it had first come out. And so
before it was complete shit.
Yeah, before it was
normal shit.
No, when it was undersupported and underfinished shit, before it became like total cash grab shit. So it was the early hopeful era of disappointment, not the post disappointment turbo disappointment.
Capitalistic wasteland that is multiplayer games today.
Yeah.
I remember Battlefield 1942, goddammit. Those are heady times.
Yeah, I remember when you could play like 64 player maps and that was normal on a game, not 16 on 16, you know.
Yep, these massive pitched battles going on where you are just, an engineer running around hitting tanks with a wrench, keeping vehicles in the fight. That was my jam.
I played a lot of...
There was that, and then Battlefield 2, I was the guy that would sit in the pilot seat like I knew how to fly the helicopters and wait for a full load and then try to take off to practice and kill everybody.
That's great.
Because there was no way to practice flying the helicopters in that game. You just kept doing it until you succeeded.
We used to play this hyper...
You'd hop in.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we used to play this hyper realistic... Because, all right, there was Red Orchestra, and then there were mods for Red Orchestra, like Forgotten Hope and a bunch of other shit, which are amazing fucking mods. Like, if you ever...
my uncle actually worked on the Forgotten Hope mod.
That's an amazing fucking
Forgotten
mod.
Hope too.
Yeah, yep. Forgotten Hope is an insane in-depth mod. Like, you'll find realistic down to the units, weapons, everything. Very, very good with realistic ballistics and in a game that's ancient, and it's amazing. But I remember we were playing Forgotten Hope, and Forgotten Hope had it was either Forgotten Hope or one of the modded Russian ones we did, but there was a battle
the Russians were all over that. They headed up a lot of the really realistic.
Yeah, they did. Like, so we were playing the Siege of we were playing the Siege of Leningrad, and it was the iced over bridge crossings and stuff like that. And so we're sitting there fighting from the basements and the sewers, and then every floor of the building, you could go into every building, had all been modeled by this mod team. So people like crouching behind buildings, there's artillery going off and everything else. And each side can have only one sniper. And there was this guy named Kablinga. Like, it filled up the whole thing. And so Kablinga was an amazing fucking sniper. Like, the enemy guy would lean out and Kablinga would just start tagging the enemy sniper in the face. And then the enemy sniper would change to someone else because that guy gets tired of getting murdered by him. And then someone else is like, I could kill him. And then they get murdered. So this guy's like our Vasily Zaitsev on the team. Like, he's knocking people out. And we're like, this guy's fucking great. So he would see where firefights were happening, and then he would reposition and get over them and drill like 4 or 5 guys that are like laying down the lead on all of us. And then we would turn the tide. He was this awesome fucking sniper. So there's this edgy kid, and there was a voice channel and in the server. And so everyone's joining like Vent. This is the Ventrilo days, you know? And there's this edgy kid, just this real shit kid, disrespectful. And I mean, I was young back then, but I was never like that, you know. This kid's being real disrespectful, and he's throwing around epithets and shit. And we're like, hey, cool it. Hey, knock this shit off. And people, you know, were just offended. And we were trying to find a server admin. We changed channels, but this kid would come in and just start yelling. And, you know, he's like 12. Just Xbox Live kid, right? You know, just calling people this and that and just unpleasant. And so he starts calling Kablinga a very, very many things. And Kablinga's just muted. Just fucking muted. And this was so great because he was calling Kablinga every epithet and every variation of slander you could imagine a 12-year-old to know. And Gavlinga said nothing, and this guy's like, I'll join the enemy team and I'll fucking kill you and blah, blah, blah. And he goes on the enemy team and da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, you can kill me all you want, but I'll keep coming back on this server. And Kablinga knew something, which was there was an auto ban in this server that was also somehow triggered on the vent if they team killed. And they had to team kill in a huge threshold in a certain amount of time. Kablinga waited. And this kid pulls the fucking fuse on his his det pack and is running up. And right as he pulls the fuse, Kablinga banes him right in the face. He drops it and kills half his team. And Kablinga unmutes, and it's this old chick who's smoking a cigarette and goes, "You're wrong, kid." And he got banned the next instant. And I was like, I fucking love the internet. I was just like, yeah. I love those moments in gaming because nowadays it's just, Like I watched someone play Overwatch and I was like, that looks like Dance Dance Revolution with guns. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I know
I've not been very impressed with some of the multiplayer offerings, so I don't participate. I'm not the target demographic. I've not been for a long while. I recognize that, but I've got my niches that I like, and I stay within those.
Oh, by the way, one of our ships is pulling out of formation. It's had its shit pushed in pretty bad.
Yeah. Engine spaces are flooding.
Yeah, he's having a oopsie. The Utah has fallen out of formation and is basically probably out of ammo.
Yeah.
Look at this American battle formation. This is the Great White Fleet here. This is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Look at this shit.
That might be a collision there behind the South Dakota.
Yeah, the Nevada is healing over.
Rather intently.
The guys are out on the wings of the bridge yelling like, ah!
Everybody to the starboard side. We got to correct this. Well, at least the Nevada, is one for tradition.
Naval joke. San Pedro Estopol.
Yep.
All right.
Get him out of there, and San Pedro takes the lead. Man, this has just been a slogfest.
Yeah, like they're having. I mean, they are concentrating their gunnery because I just sped it up, and they are.
Yeah.
But as you can see, not much is hitting. It's hitting around it. It's just.
Oh yeah, well, and we're having the same problem.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
We're gonna have to close to decisively win or lose this.
Yeah. Well, I want to decisively win or lose this. I want to see these stupid things go into point blank range. I mean, I want to clap these things together like textbooks. I want to see what happens.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we are closing range. I mean, we should actually be...
South Dakota's taken some mean hits.
Yeah, the Cage Master on fire. Yeah, as we begin to close in, you're starting to see these rounds have a chance of exploding flush against the hull.
On interior spaces or flush against the hull, yeah.
Because the problem with picric acid is when it gets jostled, it tends to just go up. And so a lot of this would hit a mast and then detonate and just boom, and not do a lot of damage. But if you can get a good hull hit with it and it explodes against the hull, that's different. that can hammer things to pieces.
It's the difference between a mining charge in the open versus a mining charge against a wall.
Yeah.
You start directing those explosive forces, you can do some crazy things with not all that much blast power.
Yeah, it's called an explosive lens, and you can do horrible things with it. That's people are like, I don't like reading books, and I'm like, oh, you don't like playing God, huh? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's so much science out there. You could live forever if only you discover the way. And then usually they end up discovering like some way to kill mosquitoes with microwaves or something. I'm like, that's cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Imagine if you had like a phaser that just killed bugs.
They just fucking fell cooked to the ground.
I was just thinking about like a...
That's, if I was in Starfleet, that's what I would be doing with the phaser. I'd set it to stun and just be like, got that fly.
Well,
just across the security station.
The
wall spits out another ticket for negligent discharge to, tell me that I'm a bad boy because it's a post-money society. So what are they going to find me?
They're going to send you to Counselor Troy's office, and she's going to ask you a lot of weird questions while she's strutting around in that fucking leotard. And you're just like, why? Like, why? And she's like...
Counselor Troy always struck me as somebody that, like, you'd walk into the room, like, you wanted to see me, Counselor, and she's in, like, a tantric yoga pose. Like,
yeah.
Oh, don't mind me. Sit in the chair.
And you're like,
really?
Yeah, no, I'm not doing this. Like,
no, this...
like, get me.
We're
I will talk
we're
to.
Gonna do this again. I've got 2 sexual harassment charges against you already, lady.
It's like, look, I will go do what I do for therapy. I will go down to the holodeck and I will tell my life story again to Mark Twain. And I will have him judge me as irascible as always and tousle my hair. That is what I want. That will be my therapy. I don't need other people's approval. I have photons. But here's the thing is I was laughing my ass off once because I was watching DS9 and it was one of the episodes where they're actually fighting the Dominion and it's like a bunch of Starfleet guys with like spandex on with phaser rifles. And I'm thinking maybe there's no point in wearing armor. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, there's just no fucking point.
As far as I can tell, there isn't.
So,
because it disintegrates you.
Right.
It disintegrates matter. What matter would stand up to that?
So, right. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So, like, combat is just, like, whoever can wear the most Under Armour that fits the snuggest and is most comfy wins. And I'm like, cool. So you could have, like, a whole army that's just comfy. Because, so it's like...
In that society, he who draws first wins. So I'd have a bunch of guys in like fucking speed draw holsters from ISPC and cowboy action shooting with phasers in them.
What I would do is I would have everyone with the comfiest fucking clothes they could find. Because
they're running around in sweatpants with fucking Kurt Russell's rig from Tombstone. Like, I got you.
Well, here's the thing. It's everyone who watches Star Trek does a self-insert. Everyone has a here's what I'd do in this situation,
Oh yeah.
And so
hard not to.
Yeah, so I was watching that DS9 episode and I'm watching all those Starfleet guys with like burns and ripped clothing and they're all like, that phaser broke my arm somehow or whatever. And they're like, oh, the Jim Hadar are coming and we gotta be tough. And I was sitting there thinking like, but my brain like alerted me that there was a fact that I knew. And the fact was that I'd seen what phasers could do in TNG, where they just need to make like a rock explode or like a wall disappear. And they say, if you put it on wide beam setting and full, it'll just go through anything. And so I would be like, okay, well, while everyone else is shooting like little phaser balls or whatever, I'm going to go lay on the ground and act like a corpse. Just lay there. And then when the Jim Hadar come by, I'm going to have that thing on a wide beam full setting. And I'm just going to pop up and I'm going to go, yeah, see, this is my Tommy gun. And I'm just going to let them have it. And I'm just going to use it as a hose of energy.
Yeah, it's the phase thrower.
Yeah, I mean, I would use it as a hose of Jim Hadar be gone. And just, and then they'd be like, you killed 800 people. And I'd be like, nah, they're a gas, see? And, I mean,
I didn't kill them. I just tore their atoms from each other until they ceased to be.
I turned them to the electrons from which they came, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
why? Like, why are they fighting that war like that? Because they're like, oh, the Jimmador are gonna come in here and fight us at like picket range in 1812, and we have to sit behind these rocks. And I'm like, why does Starfleet have rocks? Did they forget how to fill sandbags, or like did they forget how to like dig holes in the ground? Like just sitting there going, God, Starfleet's really bad at this.
They're horrible at it. A properly militarized Starfleet would be terrifying.
Well, that was the thing, is you realize in the original series, there's that one episode where they use a like a grenade launcher. It's like a little photon mortar, and it like eliminates a hill. and they're like, all right, Spock, time it right. And you just, wah. And you go, excuse me?
Yeah, and that's crew-served infantry-level weapons. What do they have that's ground-mountable that would kill starships?
Just imagine, like, what if and I know there's going to be some people out there who are just going to start linking shit from Star Trek, trying to explain Memory Alpha. I've read Memory Alpha. I've read a lot of Star Trek. I'm a huge Trekkie. I've got the...
I'm not so, but I'm versed enough to hold my own.
Well, and I've got like the Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise. I've got the schematics. I love the universe.
Yeah.
But I know enough to make fun of it, and so I want people to know I'm making fun from a perspective of knowing something,
of loving the material,
and I love it. I love it. So,
well, you've got to love it to know enough about it to make any kind of.
Well, it's like the Jeffries tube is named after. Well, for instance, the Jeffries tube is named after the guy who built the sets. You know, so it's like fun little details and fun little what ifs and behind the scenes, and I still love the notion of it, even though it's imperfect and it's been through all these eras. But back to the point. I loved that scene, and I know the rest of the movie is but I love that scene in Star Trek First Contact where Picard just uses a Thompson submachine gun to kill the Borg. And I'm like, why hasn't Starfleet thought of that before that? Like, why? Like,
it turns out that kinetic impact weapons still work in the future. Who knew?
Well, it's just they're like, oh yeah.
Remember Ensign? Go ahead.
Well, it's just like, it's like we've tried everything. And I was like, no, you've tried these pussy ass like 24th century don't hurt people weapons. Like, just go old school. Like, have you heard of a baseball bat? Like, they're not that fast. They're just like, oh, it's like.
You will be assimilated, and then you get a fucking Louisville Slugger to the head.
Yeah,
compute that, motherfucker.
Well, it's like a Louisville Slugger, or like, I don't know, a dog catch harness. Like, no, you don't. Like, you just you get it, and then you like move it to the airlock, and you're like, you got it. No, I told you stay in that bin. We have rules.
Being inside the atmosphere is a privilege, not a right.
I love... Oh, man. Okay, so we're managing to burn each other's ships. And what is this formation? Big Montana.
Big Montana.
Remember that
You see fucking Psyduck's name for his character?
No.
He's Big John.
Oh, okay. What's Psyduck?
Jonathan Big John McCarran.
All right, so tell me about his Traveler character. And you understand that if people start listening to this Traveler thing like years on, they're going to go back to try to find references to this. It's like, this was the beginning point of the stupid. This is where the characters were first discussed. And I know the BPL lore. I'm a BPL lore master.
Okay, hold on. So there's his character portrait.
I can't. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. So there's a guy wearing basically the Duluth Trading Company outdoor high visibility line. and he has the most porniest of 1970s porn mustaches and the most substitute teacher of haircuts.
Yes. So Psyduck's character was a naval officer who gave up a promising naval career to then join the Scouts, where he was horribly wounded and then spent a lot of money to get that damage repaired.
Oh.
Yes. He can kind of pilot. He lost some of that in the wounding, which he did not recover fully.
I love Traveler. In character creation, you can die. I love it.
Well, your character is going to be just ridiculous as well.
Well,
who's that? Well, he's the burned man and our engineer.
Well, that was the thing, is I was thinking at first of, well, I did just total random, and we ended up with a guy who wanted to go to the Naval Academy and then ended up in the Merchant Marine for life.
Being drafted into the Merchant Marine.
Yeah, and so he's just like a mechanic and manages to rise in the Merchant Marine to like 4th officer after like 20 years of service. And then he gets blowed up on a mega freighter and is wounded. And so I was thinking, like, the burned man, you could make someone who's just really intense, like Joshua Graham, or just this guy that's covered in bandages.
But he's Joshua Graham preaching the zen of motorcycle maintenance.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. Like, because I try to come up with character concepts. And so I'm thinking that was one take on it, is just to play this serene, sublime engineer who's also got that insane hard edge because they've like been literally on fire, so they're just like, yeah, sometimes you think about life and sometimes life ends. Anyways, hand me the number 4, please. Just very clinical and zen, but also kind of twisted, like, wow, it sounds like we need some nerve gas, just kind of out of it. The other idea for the character I had, oh man, it looks like we're slowing down. This guy may be falling out of formation. But the other idea for the character that I had was what Psyduck and Diggs and everyone was giggling about, which was playing a plasma man from Space Station 13. Basically playing a burning skeleton inside a spacesuit that breathes a completely different atmosphere.
Yep.
That would be an excuse to use like the "it is noted" voice and just being weird, just like as the funny character for what would otherwise be too serious of a game, maybe. I'm not sure, because like, as you've known me and the many characters I've played from Groves and everything else, I typically never play the same thing twice. So I'm always looking for something kind of different to play with. Character-wise. The Plasma Man could be funny, and there's like a million races in Traveler, right? I mean,
there's a fair amount between all the minor and major. Your major races are, you've got 2 different kind of branches of humanity that are
meta-humanity
from each other.
Yeah,
yes.
And so, well, all right. I
and
know.
And then you've got dog people and lion people and whales and.
Yeah, I mean,
some fucker long ago was like, "Hey, all these animals, they need to be able to fucking talk and fly spaceships." So they did it, and we're in the refuse of it.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, what I love about Traveler is like the Traveler wiki is insane. The Traveler wiki is insane. Like, it's a wiki that's been around for a very long time, and there's data on everything. So if you're like a DM and you don't know how to world build, play Traveler. Just go out there and Google the Traveler star map, the interactive star map, and you can see the level of detail that these fans have put together. It's nuts. It's amazing.
My favorite thing that I've found so far in preparing for this campaign is the Office of Calendar Compliance, called the CalComp. They are a bureaucratic office that goes around to make sure that all official correspondence is being done using the standardized imperial time and date system. And that is just such a true, stupid little bureaucratic thing that has absolutely no right to be in an RPG game.
But it needs to exist.
Would be critical. It would be critical to
Oh,
running
yeah.
an interstellar empire.
Well, that's what I love about Travelers. There's no real FTL communication, so you have to Pony Express messages around.
Everything.
Yeah, so like Mr. Welch said, he was like, yeah, he was like, yeah, my most famous character in Traveler was, of course, a porn merchant, you know, and just driving the fastest ship he can, hauling like gigs and gigs and gigs of porn from one place to another. And
that's wonderful. I would love to have that character. That would be great to work with.
Well, I think the Plasma Man would be... Well, okay. I know a bit about Traveler. I know a bit, but it's been a while. I love the Traveler universe. I love the concept of your own Traveler universe. I'm really big, as I've said many times before, of people making the universe their own. Because people will say, well, I love 40K, but I hate that. And I'm like, well, then play without that. And they're like, well, why can't... I'm like, dude, when I was playing with my toys as a kid... If I had G.I. Joes and you had not G.I. Joes, you had Playmobil, we played together. We didn't make rules for why or why not. We just did it. And that's okay as adults because you can say, oh, I want to play this game or I want to play that game. And it's like, we can do both. Especially in tabletop, fucking make this shit work.
Canon exists, in my mind, canon exists to make sure that publishers do not publish shit that openly contradicts other published material.
I agree.
It should have very little bearing on how we run games if we choose.
Well,
now,
exactly.
The difference may be in something where you've got campaigns which are affecting the game world, like used to have Battletech. Those, okay, yeah, we got to stick to canon on those.
Well, yeah, you have a series of events that are set and determined fairly, like in Battletech, where you can play this shit out, or like 40K used to before they just said, we want your money and we don't want to care about being customer service. But I really think that, yeah, you should allow canon events to happen, but players should still be able to play what if. You know, you could play what if Amaris had won? What if, Kerensky had taken over? Why not?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Travelers. From the beginning, they've said, make it yours. You have your own Traveler universe. There's the Traveler universe and there's your Traveler universe. And they can both be beautiful. And I love that the main Traveler universe has so much to jump off from. It's a fertile ground for just inventing whatever crazy shit you want. And it's really well thought out.
Yeah.
So we've got a horrible criminal, thief, and grave robber. And we've got a guy who was in the Navy and then got...
And the Scouts.
And then got fucked up.
Yeah. Did not, get injured and kicked out of the Navy or left in disgrace or any mishap. No, he was just like, you know what? I am almost vested. I can almost retire from the Navy. Fuck this. I'm a scout now.
Okay. I mean, interesting.
Yep.
So he's okay. So there's that. Oh man. Okay. So we almost
South Dakota's just dead in the water. It's lost both of its engines.
Well, look where this battle started. All the way back here. I mean, Utah.
The Utah sits motionless.
Dude, that thing's Fort fucking Drum right now. I mean, we're sitting here.
Well, you guys have just been chasing them. They do not want to decisively engage.
No, they don't. And I think that's because they're pussies, and I'm here to fuck. So let's see what happens. Now, I think that you've got... Okay, so CJ has not yet built his character.
He has now.
He has. Okay, so
yes.
Tell me about that man.
CJ's character is... a lion person who's spent a career in the imperial and local defense militaries.
Those lion people, if I remember correctly, their lore is like they're like cats. They have to have like an area that's theirs, and they're very big on possessions. And if you like fuck with them, they get really territorial.
Yes,
that's hilarious.
So we'll see how CJ does with that. That could be a very interesting
Oh no,
character.
yeah. So let me. Okay, question. What's DM
Yeah.
rolling on lasers and cats?
I had not thought of it, but maybe he'll have to roll a Constitution save to not pay attention to the laser.
Just like something to learn while I'm briefing. Just sitting there, and his eyes just follow it, and he's like, "Please stop. I
Please
can't.
stop.
Please, I have to have it." Oh god.
And then Diggs has built his character.
I was gonna
We're
ask.
just waiting
Yeah.
on Mr. J. Which I can't log in because he's running another game right now, so I can't see if Jake's built his yet.
I've got let's see. I've got choices because we need an engineer, but I would say the first random engineer we rolled, we desperately need an engineer.
Well, if you want to try for another character, we can absolutely do that. I love rolling up characters. We could roll up a dozen.
Okay.
Pick the best of the lot.
Well, I'm thinking,
especially since I'm a little bit more comfortable now, having done close to a dozen characters now.
All right.
There's some stuff we fudged that I know how to properly do with your first character now. So.
Okay. Well, I let the dice just kind of be the king there, but if we have an idea in mind, I think we need an engineer because Diggs is a doctor, and
Diggs is a medical researcher. Yep.
So yeah, he's a doctor. Like he's one of those guys who.
Here's the other thing: is I've now also managed to snag the Mongoose First Edition supplemental books for all of these different career paths, which give us better life event charts and mishap charts. So we're not rolling on the same 1d12 chart.
Oh, that would be awesome! Because that's my favorite stuff when they added that.
That's how we got. Mr. Crow's characters. He started as a basic thief out of the core rulebook, and then after he was sent to prison for 4 years, which counted as a life term, he had to do the prisoner life term where he was a guy who could get you whatever you wanted. He was a fixer in prison. He came back and he's like, well, let's dip into some of the supplemental material then, and that's where we found the grave robbing possession. And he's like, oh hell yes, that's what he did.
So no, I didn't know we could do those because that would be really exciting. Because I was thinking of doing, because we have a medic, we have CJ's playing the fighty man.
Yep. So he's a combatant through and through.
So we have the muscle, we have the brains. Do we have
a pilot?
And we have a pilot. Do we have a face?
So. His thief should be acceptable for face kind of stuff, if need be. But having somebody specialized in it would not be bad at all.
No,
somebody with your merchant or diplomatic would be good.
Well, I think that it would be really fucked up. Well, I don't know. Like the Plasma Man thing would be hilarious if it was an officer exchange thing. I come with the ship.
Yep, don't worry about him. He's on exchange.
I mean, I would be just basically doing Andy Kaufman in Taxi the whole time.
If we did the exchange officer thing, filming the film of our Traveler campaign, when you said that, there would be a cutaway to like this Lieutenant Jones, and he's just standing in a spacesuit in a room filled with plasma as all these men cackle around him like, just a plasma ship.
Yeah, it's sitting there motionless, like terrified as all these skeletons just burn alive and laugh at him like, you must breathe oxygen.
You wanna smoke?
And he's just like,
yeah, exactly. God damn it, we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think the exchange officer, I would be doing Andy Kaufman's character from Taxi, just as an alien, because I think that would be just a little bit of funny, but also just where someone's like, yeah, take a seat. I have had many seats in my life.
Yes.
And they're like, oh. he's gonna be weird.
It's gonna be one of these.
Yeah. I will have one microwaved egg. 12 minutes.
So no, we've got some interesting stuff lined up. I've got a scenario based on maritime classifications and practical applications of such.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Maritime classifications and practical applications of such. This is an excellent trail. How much semaphore will I need to know? Do I need to know much semaphore?
Nah, not all that much.
All right, I'll have to brush up. At any rate, I'm going to end this one. This is indecisive, but I am burning some shit down. And we learned a thing or two about Utah. What a wonderful episode!
It was a pretty good one.
Fuck yeah. Anytime.
Me gusta el gatito de usted, de ti marine do pingüe, cucarama gatito fue, que me gusta el gatito de usted. Que su curunde, ay, me gusta el perrito de usted, de tin marín de do pingüe, cucarama gatito fue, me gusta el perrito de usted. Debajo de la cama un toro tenía, cada vez que la niña lloraba y el toro bufaba y así le decía.
Una niña que yo conocía debajo de la cama un toro tenía, cada vez que la niña lloraba el toro bufaba y así le decía.
Surundaca, surundaca, surundaca que su curundé, ay me gusta el torito de usted.